Carl and Lou here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short. We took a little break, but we're back. Freddy's Nightmares, continuing season 1 of the Nightmare on Elm Street based TV show that has gone well off the rails completely in regards to associations with the man himself, Freddy Krueger. There are still episodes to come that have a bit more reference to him and so on, but this specific one, episode 12, The End of the World, has next to nothing. In fact, even though it's 2 parts, do link up because it's based around the same character. They are wildly different. Yeah. It's thing is, like, it's more based in dreams than some of the other episodes. It's more straightforward in regards to that aspect. But they're quite unusual, and this is where you start to really notice, I think, the show trying to say certain things. In fact, this and a lot of following episodes are definitely trying to say certain things. This one dealing with, whether or not you can change the past and you have to accept it in the first half, or the second half, where it's kind of like deal with like corruption and espionage and spy stuff. Yeah. It is that unusual. It's The End of the World. And it's written by James Capp and directed by Jonathan Betul. I don't like this episode. No. The first one, the first half, at least I think, was semi-interesting because I am a fan of stories, at least in the horror sci-fi world, where you can change the past by doing certain things differently. And each time you end up causing something else to happen, which is very much the case with the character of Amy, who's played by Mary Cohnert, a young woman. In fact, when we're introduced to this first segment, is that really weird, clearly dream sequence of the woman on the ladder, the slow car rolling down. And this event will have killed this woman on the ladder. Yeah. But the way they film it, you're like, how? Oh, God. How could that have killed her?
It's like not even 1 mile an hour. This car nudges the ladder.
Slowly rolling, nudging the ladder. And I realise, of course, she might just fall awkwardly and all that. But when we cut back to her in a later scene where we actually see it, she's like, it looks like she's been shot, like where the blood's all over her chest and all that. Like she's been gunned down or something instead of just falling off a ladder on some grass.
I would have had her falling on the shears. Like, if you're going to do it, she can fall on the shears.
You can cut and you can cut, innit? You can kind of zoom into like shears or something or whatever. Or even like cut to black but with a crunch sound, maybe implying she might have broken her neck or something like that, and so on. But this is all about her memories, Amy's memories of the past. Something she doesn't quite remember actually, because her mother died when she was younger, and her father, basically, it was a car accident. Yeah. But she will later learn as the episode goes on that she was responsible. So basically, she keeps having this dream. She starts to realise she can change it. Yeah. And that's what happens throughout the first segment of her attempts to change these things. Because basically it's her and her friend are playing ball as a kid. Yeah. And the ball ends up going in the car. She goes in there and accidentally
turns the car, the car in gear.
Yeah, but not gear. Takes the handbrake off effectively. Takes the handbrake off effectively, causing it to roll, which hits the ladder and so on. So she attempts to change that in a number of different ways. Each time, though, the end result is a little bit different. And it's fun to watch that. It's fun to sort of see how it plays out when she wakes up and it's like, oh, her mother's alive now, but what's different now? And it is cool because basically the entire series of events, her father was going to get on a plane. Her father was going to get on a plane, but when the accident happened, he got called back and so on. And that's what ends up happening at the end of this segment where her father did get on the plane and that plane ended up crashing, so he ended up dying anyway. They never ever follow up on this. That's the frustrating thing, is we end up going to segment 2, which is a completely different thing. Yeah. Completely different thing.
Wildly different.
Wildly different, and we never follow up on that. Did she just accept the fact that she had her mother back but lost her father? It seems like that's very much the case. Yeah. What did her father do? I don't know if maybe could have tied it into the fact that because when she gets her memory back and she realised she was responsible for killing her own mother, even though it was an accident, you could maybe have her be bitter towards her father for having lied to her for so many years, and that's why she chose her mother or whatever, that kind of thing.
I think that's a classic thing of these TV programmes. They've not got enough, they don't...
Of this, yeah.
They haven't got the time or the notion to put any more into the stories.
We have obviously we've watched episodes where the 2 parts, the 2 segments, are intrinsically tied together, meaning that they might as well be one whole episode. It just continues on from a different slant more than anything else. We've actually got stuff like that still coming up in the future to cover as well. But this is not one of them. This is very much here's the character, but here's two completely different short stories around her. And it's less enjoyable because there's less to be invested in. But I also understand because the first segment doesn't have enough weight, doesn't have enough oomph to really drag that out, really tell a story. It's very light on horror as well, you know, so it's not like we're seeing violence and gore, and Freddy Krueger is completely absent in regards to that. Of course, like any of these episodes, you can make the case for him being the architect of these dreams and all that and stuff like that, but it doesn't work as well here at all. And even less so in the second segment, which is easily one of the worst segments of all we've seen, sections of this show, because it's just so boring. And most of it is Amy basically sitting in a room with CIA agents as they're trying to get her to dream. So the term the end of the world, and the title, right, really just applies to the second. I think, in a way, you could tie it into the first segment, being at the end of the world doesn't necessarily mean the world in general, but her world. Exactly, absolutely. But it's quite on the nose in regards to the second segment, because it's about, ultimately, nuclear holocaust. Well, that's it. It's about nuclear bombs being dropped and on America and so on, and the CIA want to use her. What has become her mind powers in this? Apparently, I guess a certain amount of time has gone by that she's become more known for it, or that she's been able to control it, but she looks exactly the same, so it doesn't really work. But I guess that's what it is, and she's basically got the attention of the CIA who want to utilize it because she's dreaming of a man literally dreaming of him, but from his point of view, entering a bunker somewhere and activating a missile launch on American soil, and they want to basically stop that, obviously, but they want to understand who it is, where it is, and stuff like that. Now, there are elements later in it where they're kind of narrowing it down and trying to work out of who it is, where in something else might have been quite cool to watch, but because it's Freddy's Nightmares, because we know we're in limited time, because we know how the show kind of plays out, it just ends up feeling quite boring as these guys are making phone calls and going, oh, we've narrowed it down to X amount of bunkers and X amount of people named this and so on. And it's like, oh, this is interesting. Or why basically Amy stays seated in a chair going, oh, I can't do this anymore, can't do this, and then carries on doing it anyway.
I think that was what we were doing by the end of it, weren't we?
It was quite dull. It was quite mind-numbingly dull. The government conspiracy stuff, do you know what I mean? Like the idea of being manipulated into doing something like this is all good and proper, but you have to take it all with a pinch of salt. You have to take it with a pinch of salt. So like the part that goes a little too far for me, where it's just kind of like, I don't know if I would like to see this done in a different way. So the idea is, of course, you can't just go into a bunker and press a button and launch a missile. Of course, there are going to be many. There should be many spell safes.
So the cards that snap, people do it in tandem. Codes.
Yeah, but the problem is that's not enough fail safes for me. The idea in this is simply this: it requires two people, both be able to put them in turn and do that kind of system. Except the second person is in there with you, and from where the main guy who, you know, is being manipulated into doing this, where he's seated and the way it's positioned, no part of me doesn't believe that he couldn't do that himself. Like, they're next to each other. They're seated next to each other. It's a small, like, narrow little area that you don't even need that second person. That really bugged me. It looks cheap as well. It's all flashing lights where everything's on repetition. Flash, double flash. Like that, you know, easy to absolutely, like,
Don't lean on it.
Yeah, you wouldn't lean it; it'll fall apart. And it might look really advanced and all that, but it's not. But basically, he ends up like pulling a gun on his colleague and demanding that he use his key card, his key as well. And the guy initially refuses, but then the guy's like pointing the gun at him and like, "I'm going to kill you if you don't do it." So the guy ends up doing it, and I'm like, "Why would you do that?" Like, you will know what the consequences of this are. You'll be killing X amount of millions of people. You're probably going to die yourself. What, you know, I realise saying, oh, someone should be more heroic in this, but like, I would have liked to have at least seen that, where he's like, no, I won't do it, and then gets shot, and then the other guy just like, all right, well, I'll do it myself, and finds a way to do it himself in some way, or, you know, that kind of aspect, instead of just being like, okay, I'll do it, you know. But of course, we're also beginning to hit a bit of a trend here now as well with episode 12, where the end result is not dark. where it either ends not necessarily happy, but things get resolved in a more sensible, believable way. And I'm not sure I quite like that. It's called Freddy's Nightmares. Each episode should be in a bubble. No part of me, and I know, unfortunately, the show's done this a few times, there should be no linking up here.
No.
There should be no, like, shared universe. The problem is we've seen other episodes where things are referenced from other episodes, an event. Oh, did you hear about so and so and so and that kind of thing and so. And I'm not sure if that's always the best idea, because I generally think this could have been more fun with the end of the world happening.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, because we get these funny little dream sequences as well from Amy, where she's dreaming of like a family or herself and a family in a burnt out house with dirty smudges on them, as if like, you know, they've survived a nuclear holocaust
got, like,
and stuff.
One head.
You know, that kind of thing. I would have liked to have seen them play around with that more. The closest we get to a nuclear bomb going off in this is the cuts between the segments where it would normally go to an ad break. Is Freddy with the appearing on screen with the nuclear explosion above his head. Really cheap and crap looking and so on. But again, he's basically absent for this. He is the intro and outro, the message with his terrible puns, because a lot of them are really terrible at this point. And this whole episode is really forgettable. At the time of recording, we watched this maybe a week ago, and I was drawing a blank in it. I had to go and read up on it again, write my notes, and then go, okay, I think I've got enough here to be able to talk for about 10 minutes about it. It's one of the more uninspired, less interesting, even if it's got a unique slant overall, and at least has dreams as the most imperative aspect of it. You know?
Yeah, you've lost the Nightmare on Elm Street. It's tacky, fun, horrific. This has had none of that.
This is getting very serious,
And if you watch this out of context of knowing it's Freddy's Nightmares, you'd be like, oh, this is just a really dull episode of a TV programme.
Absolutely.
Twilight Zone or something.
Yeah, you'd think it is that. It is that.
Sci-fi rather than like psychological horror rather than like guts and fun.
Yeah. I'd struggle to call either of these horror.
Yeah, no.
Like, you know, it's drama. It's often call it drama more than anything else, and that ultimately hurts it. For me, it's one of the worst we've done of season 1 so far. The End of the World, episode 12. Got any thoughts on it? You know what to do. Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website, where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at gbhbl. Just search for gbhbl and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.